to our show. For the next hour, we're going to spend some time with one of the country music legends. She is, in fact, the first lady of country music. Please welcome Tammy Wynette. Hello, love.
How are you? Good to see you.
Tammy, how are you?
I'm doing great, Ralph. Thanks.
Well, welcome you to our show.
Thank you.
And we're going to talk about a lot of things during this hour, but I thought we might start with what you're doing currently, one of your, I guess, most exciting projects. And that involves this CD I'm holding in my hand called Tammy Wynette Without Walls. What does that mean?
Well, I wanted to do this album with some people that weren't country music artists in other fields of music, and I just thought Without Walls was appropriate, like no boundaries or anything. You know, I just sing with everybody, you know, no boundaries.
Who did you sing with?
I did a duet with Elton John, one with Sting, Aaron Neville, Wynonna, Lyle Lovett, Joe Diffie, and Cliff Richard. I went all the way to London to record with Cliff Richard. It's really been a great project.
Cliff Richard is a major international star. Did you mention Smokey Robinson?
Yes.
He's, that's one of the best cuts in the album, I think.
Well, thank
What
you.
is it? I Second the Emotion?
Emotion, yeah. It was
Well,
an old hit by him years ago.
Excuse me?
It was a hit by him years ago, so. And I took it and the one that I did with Sting, with an old record of Sting's, and Every Breath You Take, so.
One thing I noticed about the album, you seem to let your guest pick the material. And in many cases, it was something they had written.
Yes, I did.
How did you get to know Elton John?
Well, I met him when I decided to do this project. I wrote letters and everything to his manager and to him, and he said he wanted to do it. So he invited Richie and I down to a concert in Atlanta. He now lives in Atlanta. And we met that way. And then we went to several of his shows. We went to Minneapolis and several places and got to know him really well. And he did the album with me. And he's really a nice guy, really nice friend.
Let's take a look at a little bit of your friendship with Elton John. Now, that seems to be a rehearsal.
It was. We were in a little room trying to figure out who would take what part, who would sing tenor and who would lead it. And it was a song that he had written, he and Bernie had written. And I thought it was a very pretty love song. So, and he didn't want his drummer, the guy that worked with him for years, Nigel Olsen, to be drummer on this session because he said he didn't want it to sound like an Elton John song. But the minute he sat down and hit the keyboard, to me, that's an Elton John song. So I liked the song. I enjoyed doing it.
You picked one girl for this project. Wynonna.
Wynonna, yeah. I just feel like Wynonna's like my little girl. I worked with her and her mom when they were just first starting out. And, she'd get mad and pitch fits behind stage at her mama. And then she'd come to my dressing room and cool off and then go back. So I called her. I was in England. And I was working in England. And I called her and I said, would you please do this with me? You'll be the only female on the show. She said, well, today I was going to only make one decision. That was what I was going to eat. But she said, I called downstairs for room service and realized I was home. So she said, can I get up and run around the bed 2 or 3 times? I'll come back and give you my answer. So she was like a little kid. And I love Wynonna. I think she's got a wonderful voice.
Let's get Wynonna's version of this story.
Oh, okay.
Well, I was in my pajamas. I was in the bed, and I said, hold all my calls. It's one of the few luxuries we have in life to be able to take an hour or two to sleep in. And I was sleeping in that day. It was a day off. And somebody came through saying, Tammy Wynette is calling from London. And I said, oh, that's really funny. That's good. It's probably my mother, trying to get through. My first instinct was to run around the room. And I said, hold on a minute while I run around the bed, because I really, you don't have a opportunities like this very often in your life. I did it for two reasons. One, because of the fact that she's a legend in her spare time, and the fact that I love Tammy, and Mom and I have kind of a... Remember, she was the one who read our first award. Remember that? Back in 1984, when we first started out, we won our first award, and she was the one that read the envelope.
He got my number. He knew I was home. He said he'd call me, so I sat by the phone. Called me crazy, but I thought it should ring. I guess it's just a girl thing. Well, I cooked him dinner. He showed up late. He had some business that just couldn't wait. I burned the fenders, those buffalo wings.
Really, there's two songs on the album that are single songs
Right.
that I did, and the rest are duets. We hope maybe to have the Winona thing. I guess it's just a girl thing.
Girl thing.
Girl thing. Yeah. We would like very much for that to be, a single. But if it isn't, they will probably go with one of the single songs that I did on the album. But I'd love to have the single
Yes.
with Winona.
There are two songs on the album. You sort of bracket the album. If it's The Last Thing I Do, is the first song. It's solo. And what's the last song?
What do they know?
Did you write these songs?
No, I didn't. I wish I had.
Very
I
good.
didn't.
I love the album.
Well, thank you.
Very good. And it's called Tammy Wynette Without Walls. Did you pick the title?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Okay.
I had a lot of fun doing that album, and met a lot of people, made friends with a lot of people, and it was good for me.
When you first came up, I said, "How are you?" You said, "I'm fine." That has not always been the case. You may have had more appearances in the hospitals of America, in fact, it's the hospitals of the world, than anyone I know. Tammy, I'm sure your fans wonder why it is that almost every time they pick up a newspaper, they find you're in it. I mean, a newspaper man did a very clever thing once. He made a newspaper column out of your illnesses. 1971, Tammy Wynette collapses on stage. 1974, Tammy Wynette has surgery. 1975, country singer in hospital. Moving on to 76, country singer recovering from operation. These are just headlines in your life. 1983, Tammy Wynette hospitalized with ulcer. 1987, Wynette in hospital.
Oh, God.
1987 again, Wynette recovering from surgery. And I didn't mention all of them. And then what is not on here is that near the end of 1993, you almost died.
Yeah, I did. I've had a lot of problems with health, but I hope that's over with now. I feel better than I have in a long time. But I had my first operation when Georgette was just a baby. I had an appendectomy. And after that, I formed very bad scar tissue adhesions. And from there, it just went... every time you have adhesions removed, they just grow back twice as fast. And the doctors don't know anything in the world to do to prevent them from growing back. They know that they grow on scars. But the last operation I had, the doctor in Pittsburgh, I had the surgery in St. Louis, but he said that it took him 8 hours to cut through the adhesions to get to where he had to do the operation. And I had infection in the bile duct, in the liver.
This was the life-threatening thing that happened to you near the end of 1993.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm. And he had done the surgery before that. And then when this happened, I didn't realize I was that sick. I woke up that night. I had recorded with Aaron Neville all day. And I woke up that night and I was hurting. And I told my husband, I said, you know, I may have to go to the hospital. And I went back to sleep, and he did too. And 3 times I got up and I said, this is not going to last. I'm going to have to go to the hospital. So when I got to the hospital, I was in excruciating pain. And they put me in a room and elevated my feet because they said my blood pressure was dropping really fast. And I told Richie, one time I remember saying, I'm really getting frightened. And that was about the only thing I remembered for 6 days. I had an infection in the common bile duct, and it had just totally poisoned my entire system. And I had less than a 10% chance of making it, less than 50% chance of making it even after 5 days. So it was really, really tough. But I looked up one time and saw my blood pressure 30/10. I thought, whoa.
Oh.
Something's bad wrong.
Did anybody ever imply to you that you were not going to make it?
No, they didn't to me, but they told my family that they didn't think that I would make it.
They told your family they didn't think you were going to live?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, they called, or had my husband call all the kids and get them in because they didn't think that there was a chance for me to win at all.
They called the family in to prepare them?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And it was so strange. I looked up one day and I saw all my girls standing at the foot of my bed. And I think this was on the 6th day when I started coming around a little bit. And I thought to myself, gosh, that makes a pretty picture. Why are they here? But then I didn't know where here was.
Mm-hmm.
I had opportunities to read many times and hear many times how people felt about an out-of-body experience or near-death experience. And I don't know anything to say except I know I was just that far from dying, but I felt no pain, and I felt no fear, no anything. So I think it's probably God's way of telling me death ain't no big deal. I don't know.
Did you have an out-of-body experience?
I can't say that it was out of body. I do know that I realized something was happening to me. And it was not a tunnel, but I could see a very bright light, and I just felt like I was floating. There was just no fear, no anything. I just felt like I was floating. I had no idea that I was sick. And then when I came around on the 6th day, Georgette said, she's a nurse, and she said, Mom, she said, it was all I could do to stand in there and watch you because she said, I have experienced some of these things in the hospital being a nurse, and she said, Dave, you just didn't have a chance at all. But I made it. I'm here one more time.
Something happened to you you probably did not anticipate because of the many operations. And because you addressed much of the pain with pain pills, you became addicted, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I was taking an awful lot of pain pills because I had chronic pain all the time and couldn't get rid of it. And several times I'd gone to theaters to work or auditoriums to work, and something would happen, and I'd tell the promoter, I just don't know if I can work tonight. He said, you work. Yeah, you'll work or you'll be sued, you know. So many, many times that was the case. So I got to where I thought, well, I'll take a pill and I won't hurt, and then I can get through the show. And then it plays mind games with you. Then it got to where I think, well, now if I take one now, it won't come back. So I did that, and I got hooked on pain pills very badly, and I went to the Betty Ford Center.
Johnny Cash told me that when he went to the Betty Ford Center, they gave him a pan and a broom and told him to sweep up. Did they give you one of those menial jobs?
No. Well, yeah, I had to wash dishes. I think it was 2 or 3 times a week. We'd alternate the girls that was there. It was very successful. Mrs. Ford came to the hospital and brought me my little medallion.
What did they give you?
They give you just a little copper medallion on a chain.
Does this say that you successfully went through the program and now that you've graduated?
Yeah. I'm glad that I went through it, and it was good. It was good for me.
Tammy, I want to review a lot of your life. Never knew your father, did you?
No. No, my father died when I was 8 months old. I understand he was a very good musician. He left quite a few instruments around for me to play with and break. And that's what I did. My mother warned me, don't play with that, you'll break it, and I did. But I didn't know him. I understand he was a very talented man. I would like to have known him.
Why did your father die so young?
Brain tumor. He had a brain tumor, and he didn't know it until he went into the service, or went to be examined for the service, and they told him that his eyesight was too bad. He went in and had his eyes examined, and they found they had a brain tumor, and there was just nothing they could do, you know, back then. That's been 50 years ago, 53 years ago.
You don't have any siblings, do you?
No.
You're an only child. Mm-hmm. But someone in your family became sort of a sister. Mm-hmm. Is that your Aunt Carolyn?
Mm-hmm.
Why was that?
Well, Carolyn was my mother's sister. My mother was 18 years older than Carolyn. And Carolyn was only 4 years older than me, so Oh, gosh, what a picture, Ralph.
This is your Aunt Carolyn, isn't
That's my Aunt Carolyn, yes.
it? You were kind of running buddies, weren't you?
We were, yeah. I was very, very close to her, and she was wonderful to me. She was more like my sister than my mother and her were sisters, because my mother, after my dad died, had to go away to work. And she went to Birmingham and worked in an airplane factory. And left me at home with her mom and dad and Carolyn. So Carolyn was like my sister, not my aunt. And Mother would come home on weekends and say, Mama, talking to my grandma, look what they're doing. You ought to spank her. And I'd think, spank me? Don't come in and tell Mama to do it. You know, you're my mother. But it was a great childhood. I had a great childhood. And Carolyn, I lost Carolyn in 1978. She died at the age of 42 with cancer.
Wasn't she the matron of honor in your marriage to George Ritchie?
She sure was,
You got married when you were in high school.
17.
Married Eupil Bird. Why'd you get married so early? Did you want to leave home?
Yeah, I did. I thought, gosh, if I could just live in a city somewhere, it'd be so much better than living out here on this farm. I'm tired of picking cotton. I'm tired of picking okra and beans and peas and stuff. I want to do something different. So, yeah, that was one of the main reasons. Yeah, was to get away from home, and I just got in the worst situation. So, wasn't what I thought he was going to be.
Wasn't a good marriage, was it?
No. I see him now. He comes up and visits. He spent Christmas with us last year.
Really?
And you know, there's no hard feelings, no problems. But I just, you know, didn't work out.
How long did that marriage last?
6 years.
And you had 3 children. So Gwen and
Jackie and
Tina. What I did, I went back and reread this book. This book came out in 1979, I believe. And the book, basically the story concludes in 78. And I recall that you, before you were divorced, went to beauty school to become a cosmetologist.
Yeah, I did.
Beautician.
Beautician, yeah. Yeah, I went to Tupelo, Mississippi, to the McGuire School of Beauty. My mother was paying my tuition, which was $25 a month to go. And I was living in a no-log house that was owned by my grandfather. And I had 2 girls. And there was cracks in the wall. I cut up cardboard boxes and nailed them on the wall to keep the wind from blowing through. I didn't have a stove. I didn't have a refrigerator. I cooked on an open fireplace, and I carried water from a spring and washed kids' diapers and stuff like that. So something had to be better than how I was having to live. So I wanted to be a hairdresser, so Mother paid for me to go. And right before my 3rd daughter was born, and my marriage was breaking up, and I went to Birmingham to my grandparents, my father's mother and dad. And I went there, and I was going to work in a beauty shop, I thought. And they would not, at the time, accept my Mississippi license. And they wouldn't even accept my hours. Mississippi required 1,000 hours, and Alabama requires 1,500. So I thought, well, if they won't take my license, I can just go back and complete that 500 hours. But they wouldn't let me do that. They made me go back to school completely. So I've gone through hairdressing school twice, once in Mississippi and once in Alabama.
Tammy, didn't you keep your license for years as a hedge against the singing career not working?
Oh, yeah, I did. I kept them for years. I still have them, and I can do anything I want to do. Charity. It's just honorary anymore, but I kept them actually for years and years because I didn't know. You know, I knew that was secure. I knew I could make money doing that, but I didn't know. When I first came to Nashville, gosh, I didn't have anything except 3 little kids, and I didn't know, you know, I might have to go back to the beauty shop, and that would have been okay if I did, but I just had to keep trying.
So you were divorced from Eupil Bird, and I know in Birmingham you sang on television on the Country Boy Eddie show. But the Nashville seemed very attractive, didn't it?
Yeah, it really did. I just loved music, and even before I moved to Birmingham, when I was a young girl working in the cotton field, I used to daydream about singing and going to see this person and that person and what it would be like to be able to sing with this person. And I'd think, when I'd hear Mel Melba Montgomery singing with George Jones. I thought, "Now, I can do as good as she can. I know I can." So it's something that I just dreamed of and wanted to do so much, you know. And then finally, Eddie Burns, who is Country Boy Eddie, and he still has that show in Birmingham, he told me one day, he said, "You're in the wrong city. You need to be in Nashville." So after that, I started driving to Nashville every weekend when I finished in the beauty shop, and my grandma would keep my girls for me. And I just wanted to come so bad, and I finally just packed up the kids, and you wouldn't believe that car. Oh, Lord, I had tricycle and stuff tied on the top of it. I had everything hanging off the back. I had two little kids in the back seat. One in the front with barely enough room to sit like this. And I backed out of my drive. Everything I owned was in the car. And I backed out, and my ex-husband drove up right behind me. And he got out of the car, and he said, "Well, what are you doing?" I said, "Well, I'm moving to Nashville." And he said, "Oh, you're going to become a hillbilly singer, huh?" And I said, "Well, I don't know. I hope." He says, "Dream on, baby, dream on." So 10 years later, I was working in Birmingham. I saw him coming down the aisle. And I was sitting on the side of the stage signing autographs, and he came up and he said, "Can I have your autograph?" I said, "Well, you got it a long time ago." And he said, "Well, I'd like to have it again." I said, "Okay." And I wrote, "Dream on, baby, dream on. Love, Tammy."
You got to Nashville and started making the rounds trying to find a break. And I want to talk about that period in your life when you finally met Billy Sherrill. What happened? I want to lead up to that. You've got your little kids, your three little kids. How old are they?
They were 5, 3, and 15 months.
And basically the 5 and 3-year-old are looking after the baby, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay. And you're dragging them all over town, aren't you? And where had you been prior to entering the office of Billy Sherrill?
Oh, gosh, I had been to Decca Record Company. I had been to RCA, Musicorps, United Artists. I had been everywhere. And Paul Cohen told me it was at Cap Records. He was the nicest man, the very nicest man. He told me, he said, "I love your voice. I would like to record you, but I cannot promise you I could release anything for a year, 2 years, and you don't need to be tied down like that." So he's very honest with me. Some of them weren't. And almost every place I went in, they wanted me to play the latest on Billy Joe Spears or somebody else that they had just recorded, and I would sit there and listen to that, and the whole time wanting to think, "Well, don't play me their stuff. Do something with me." You know, so when I was pretty desperate when I got to Billy's office.
Okay, didn't Kelso Hurston tell you he could not use you, but he thought perhaps a guy named Billy Sherrill could? So we found Captain Billy on his boat in Panama City, and this is how he remembers that first meeting.
Virginia Pugh came into my office one fall afternoon, about 5:30 in the afternoon. The day was pretty well over. And she had her guitar and a couple of songs, and after a while she came in to sing me the songs. Back then, all the producers listened to everybody, so it wasn't any problem to get yourself heard. And the songs were pretty good. She was better, though, than the songs. In fact, I don't even remember the songs. One was called "She Didn't Call Her Daddy," because he's gone. And that was about the only thing I can remember. So I told her, I said, "Okay, you know, like, don't call me, I'll call you. Where you staying?" She said, "A little motel somewhere." And I said, "Okay, I'll give you a call." And she looked at me as if to say, yeah. And I said, "No, I will, because I think you're a really good singer." So after she left, some people came up with a record that I had been trying to lease called Apartment Number 9. And it was a pretty good record, but it was on a very small label, and I wanted to lease it for Epic Records, and they wouldn't do it. So I said, "Okay." So I called her at the motel that night and said, "Hey, you want to make a record tomorrow?" She said, you don't kid me." I said, "No." She said, "Look, you're the last person on Music Row. I've seen them all. I'm on my way back home to Alabama." I said, "Meet me tomorrow afternoon at the office, learn a song, and we'll do it." She said, okay. So she came by the next day, and I gave her the record of apartment number 9. And she learned it. We went in the studio that night at 7. And when I heard the first thing come out of her mouth, I thought, God, we got something here. I didn't know till I heard her in the studio. She's great.
Well, while we had Billy on the camera, we discussed with him Stand By Your Man. Stand By Your Man was not your first record.
No.
Yeah, there's apartment number 9, and then I believe Your Good Girl's Gonna Go Bad.
Mm-hmm. I Don't Want to Play House, Divorce, and
D-I-V-O-R-C-E.
Mm-hmm. Take Me to Your World, and then...
So it was the sixth record, but certainly the most instrumental record in making you a star.
Yes.
And let's see what Billy remembers about that.
I'd been working on a song for a year, at least. I called it, I'll Stand By You, Please Stand By Me. I couldn't say Stand By Me because Ben E. King had a hit called Stand By Me. And we had done a couple of songs in a session, and I almost had the thing finished. I couldn't figure, finally, that it was something about, somebody said something, and the word Stand By Your Man came out. I said, Tammy, let's come up. Let's take a break and finish this thing. And so in about 10 minutes later, we came back down and recorded. And I remember it vividly because she was in the middle of a divorce. And we did Stand By Your Man. And that was her biggest record. Had a lot of fun.
And Billy sort of gives us a great leap forward in your life as we are covering it. Is that how you remember Stand By Your Man? It was the 3rd song on a record session?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, we never had the material ahead of time. Cheryl always had he'd say, lightning will strike, and we'll do something when lightning strikes. I thought, good heavens, you know. But I'd go in to do a session at 10 o'clock in the morning and meet with Billy, and we'd have a 2 o'clock session. We wouldn't have anything at all to record. And have you heard anything, or have you written anything? No, let's write so-and-so. And we wrote under pressure so much, and we wrote a lot of the things that I did in that time space there.
Meantime, in Nashville, you had met a man named Don Chappell, I think through his sister.
Yes, Martha Carson.
And through another sister, Jean Chappell. And married him, and that didn't work out. And so when that marriage was breaking up, and about the time you met George Jones, you were doing Stand By Your Man.
Yeah.
You didn't like that song, did you?
No.
Why didn't you like it?
Well, it was totally different from the other things that I'd done, the kid-type songs, D-I-V-O-R-C-E, and I Don't Want to Play House, and those type things. And to me, it did not have a pretty melody. I didn't like it. I hated the high notes that I had to hit on it. I just didn't like it. And I told Billy, I said, well, I didn't have confidence in my writing either, because I'd never written with Billy Sherrill before. And he was a wonderful writer, and I knew that. He'd written Almost Persuaded and some great songs. So I didn't know. I just didn't, I wasn't, confident at all in my writing with him. But I begged him not to release that song.
You met Don Chappell because you were lonely. You got married. Am I interpreting this correctly?
Yeah.
And he was a friend. That marriage got a little rough, didn't it?
Yeah.
And subsequently, that marriage was annulled by the state of Alabama.
It was, yes.
And George Jones somehow entered your life about this time. Where'd you meet George Jones?
I met him at Studio B. He was recording apartment number 9. And Billy told me that morning, I was in Billy's office, Billy said...
Why was George recording apartment number 9?
Just for an album.
Okay.
Just for an album, but I didn't know that. Billy said, he's recording downstairs, would you like to meet him? And I said, yeah, I sure would. So we went downstairs, and he was recording apartment number 9, and I told Billy, I said, good Lord, is he going to put that out? And he said, no, that's not, he's just doing it for an album, so I knew I wouldn't have a chance.
Was he doing it about the same time you did it?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you met George, and then somehow you got a job working on the road with George. How'd that happen?
Through Hubert Long. Hubert Long was my booking agent, and he was the only person that would talk to me, too. I had several booking agents here in town say, well, we don't have much luck with girls, with women. They won't patronize the bar, and they won't do this and won't do that. I told one of them, I said, well, I didn't think I was supposed to patronize the bar. I thought you was paying me to sing, not sit at the bar with everybody. So Hubert was a lifesaver, too. He came along at the perfect time, and I was starving to death, and he offered to book me, and that's how I got started working with George.
Were you booked as an opening act?
Mm-hmm. I was. And David Houston was on a lot of those shows, and I had just recorded with David Houston.
Yeah, this was about your third record, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
My Elusive Dreams.
Mm-hmm.
And now you were on a bit of a roll. Your Good Girl Is Going to Go Bad went to #1. That was your second record.
Mm-hmm.
And David Houston and you went to #1 with My Elusive Dreams. Mm-hmm. And things are looking pretty good for you.
Yep.
And as I recall reading, you had a problem with David Houston on the road because he wanted you to sing My Elusive Dreams with him in his part of the show before you came out and did your set. Mm-hmm. And you didn't want to go out because it would mean that you were not properly introduced. Mm-hmm. And so then George took it up from there, didn't he?
He did, yeah. He was headlining the show. And David's manager, Tillman Franks, came to my dressing room and told me I had been opening every night. And then David would go on after me. And I'd go out and do the duet with David. Then we'd stay and watch Jones's show, and then we'd go. But he said that night, Tillman said, David's got to leave early, so he's going on first. We'll put you on second. I said, well, that's fine. He said, but you're going to have to come and do the duet on David's show. And I said, well, why can't it be the first song or second song I do on my show? You know, I said, I don't want to have to come out and do the duet before I do anything else of mine. He looked at me and he said, well, don't you forget, honey, I know how you women make it in this business. Oh, gosh. I went down to David's dressing room and I said, well, I just got one thing to say to you. If you were Adam and I was Eve, I'd never cut another record with you for as long as I live. I don't like being treated like that. So Jones heard of it, and that night he walked out in the middle of my show and says, I think we ought to do this song together. You didn't get to do it in the earlier part of your show. And he fumbled and mumbled through it, and I'd have to feed him the lines, and he was singing My Elusive Dreams, and the crowd liked it, so it was a fun night. But he took over. And
that was the beginning of a long association with George Jones, wasn't
mm-hmm.
it? How would you summarize your marriage and career with George Jones?
Oh, God. I'd have to say, he taught me so many things. I mean, just, I really was just a little Mississippi, Alabama farm girl. I didn't know hardly anything about, you know, I don't know, George he was just very wise, very settled, and very, very wonderful, but he had a drinking problem, and that just, you know, got worse and worse and worse, and and after Georgette was born, it was just really hard to depend on him. We were being booked together, and nobody would book my show and then book his show. They just booked us as one act.
It was the Tammy, Wynette, George Jones show.
Mm-hmm.
You were always a big fan of George's even before you met him, weren't you?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I sure was. Yeah, I used to daydream about singing with him. And I listened to him so much when I was a kid, because he was 11 years older than me. And he was already recording long before I went to Nashville. So I listened to him, Kitty Wells, Skeeter Davis, and Hank Williams, Webb Pierce, the people I listened to.
How would you characterize George Jones? What kind of fella is he?
He's a little boy in men's clothes. He's a little boy dressed up, and he likes his tractors and things to play with, and when they get old, he wants a Jeep. Or if that gets old, he wants a boat. And he's traded cars 3 times in one day. And
wow.
The last year we were together, he owned 52 vehicles.
Okay.
And it's just, he's a little boy.
Did liquor break up that marriage?
It was a big part of it, yeah. It was a very big part of it. Because George got very mean when he was drinking. He's the most wonderful man in the world when he's sober. He will give you anything he's got, or he'd get it for you if he didn't have it. But when he's drinking, he turns completely into a madman. He liked to play with guns, and he would shoot guns in the middle of the night. He shot up the bathroom one night when I was laying in the bed with him and Georgette. With a .30-30 deer rifle, he shot the tiles off the bathroom walls, and us laying in the bed together. And I'm, you know, with a 6-month-old baby girl, so just he was Jekyll and Hyde, as the old saying goes.
Did he ever take a shot at you?
Yeah.
When you lived in the house in Florida?
Mm-hmm.
Because that is portrayed in the movie, and I think you talked about that in your book.
Yeah.
How long were you married to George?
6 years.
Good
Almost
friends
7.
today?
Yes, very good.
Fact is, I believe you re-recorded Golden Ring earlier this year, didn't
I
you?
did, yeah. Ralph, it was so funny. Going out there that day to record that with him, I kept telling my husband, I said, gosh, I hope he doesn't sing this as high as he did when we recorded it, because that's too high for me now. So I've had to drop that key a little bit and sing it lower. And so I got out to the studio, and I walked in, and we were rehearsing a little bit, and George came up and said, I sure hope you don't sing that as high as we did. I can't sing it that high anymore. And I said, oh, no. I said, well, you just put it where you're comfortable.
Burt Reynolds. How'd you meet Burt Reynolds?
I met Burt on a TV show here with Jerry, fucking, I think it was.
Jerry Reed?
Jerry Reed. I couldn't even think of his name. Jerry Reed had a television show, and he called me one week and asked me if I would do his television show with him, and I said yes. And I was recording that week, and I was in the recording studio singing, and one of the engineers said, Tammy, you have a phone call, and I said, well, tell him I can't come to the phone right now. And he laughed, but I don't think I'd tell Burt Reynolds to wait. And I said, Burt Reynolds? So, well, I'm a little bit ahead of myself. That morning, Jerry had called me and said, you want to go out to dinner with Burt Reynolds tomorrow night? And I said, well, I tell you what, Jerry, yeah, you just have him call me. You just have him call. Sure, I'll go out to dinner with Burt Reynolds. So I went to the phone, and he said, I understand I had to call you and ask you myself. Well, yeah, I had no idea it was Burt Reynolds, but it was, and I met him through Jerry Reed and Ray Stevens. We did the television show, went out to Mario's and had dinner, and
Became good friends.
Become very good friends. Still are very good friends.
I got the impression in reading about that relationship that he was big brother / good friend / and lover. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Did he ever propose to you?
Well, he never said, will you marry me, but he did say, would you marry me? And I said, no.
Tell him the other story.
Oh, gosh, you'd have to brief me on that now.
Well,
I can't remember
you were
what
talking about, you're standing in front of the minister. And
oh, yes, I know now. I remember what, I told him, I said, no, Bert, you and I would be at the altar about ready to say our I do's and all this, and some beautiful, the preacher would say, Bert, do you take Tammy to be your lawfully wedded wife, blah, blah, blah. And I said, there'd be a pretty girl walk by, and you go, God, who is that? Oh, yeah, I do. I said, absolutely no way. No.
The one man that you have been in love with and lived with since 1978, we haven't mentioned him yet. That's George Ritchie. Mm-hmm. George Ritchie and you have been married as we tape this show for, I guess, since 78.
17 years. Oh, we had written together many years before we ever started dating. We traveled around the world and back, his late wife and George Jones and myself together. But the one time that I really remember, I guess this was the first time we ever went out, I was divorced from George and had been just for 2 or 3 months.
Divorced from George Jones?
George Jones, yes. And I was in the studio recording, and Richie came in, and he said something to the effect, would you go with me? And I said, yeah, but I got to finish here. I have to finish. And he said he thought, well, finish what? So he left, and he came back, and he asked me if I would go have dinner with him. I did. And the next week, I believe, was George Jones's birthday down at Possum Holler Club that George had at the time. And I don't know how Jones did this, but he just, boy, he shook me up that night. He called and asked me if I was coming to his birthday party, and I said, yeah. So I got down there, and he looked at me. Now, this was 2 days after Richie and I had our first date. And Jones looked at me, and he said, is there anything I need to know about George Ritchie that I don't already know? And I went, no, not that I know of. But I don't know if he saw us, or I never have known, but he knew something was up, I guess. But Richie and I have been married 16 years, and it's been a wonderful 16. He's a very stable person. He does things for me that I don't even dream or think of, doing. I mean, projects that he gets me into and things. He's a wonderful manager. He's a great businessman. He's a good provider, and he just...
Do we have the wedding picture? Now, George Ritchie guides your career to this day. Him and Killer.
Him and Killer.
They have a little dog. Was it Pomeranian?
Yeah.
Named Killer that goes just about everywhere they go.
Everywhere.
You have a project here at the Nashville Network?
I just did 6 TV shows for TNN, special television shows. And the first one I did, I had all my friends and buddies that are in the gospel field. I had James Blackwood, J.D. Sumner, and all the people that I love because I was born and raised on gospel music, Southern gospel quartets. And I did it. And then I had one show that Loretta was on with me. A couple of things occurred that I especially liked from this series called Legends. If we could go back to the tape and roll those, please.
I remember the first time I heard you, I was in the car, me and my brother, and you was singing Apartment Number 9, and I looked over at my brother, and he was driving the car for me at that time, and playing guitar and playing fiddle, Jay Lee. And I said, Mercy, where did this girl come from? She's going to give me trouble.
I'm afraid I'm about out of time. I had so many things I wanted to talk about. Will there ever be a sequel to the book, Stand By Your Man?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. You've said all you're going to say on that subject. You've been 28 years with Epic Records. Not many people have been with a major label that long. And you continue to be a credit to country music. And the legend of Tammy Wynette just grows and grows. Ladies and gentlemen, the first lady of country music, Miss Tammy Wynette. Thank you, Tammy.